Hello there, and welcome to a very blustery April 24th, 2012. Well, the last 3 days have been in the mid-50s around here in terms of weather, and it's been a deluge of rain. Yesterday it was wind and rain, just dropping in buckets. And I woke up with this morning, springtime had arrived. You know, the last month or so, there's still been a little of that awkward, kind of brownness in the grass. And now, all of a sudden, the grass is really bright green. You can see the colors just bursting right out. Now, the reason I talk about this, spring seeming to come on so suddenly around here, is because Friday, the 27th, is Arbor Day. Seems like the people who timed the modern holidays did a much better job in April than they did in February. Now, April has two of the most important ecology-themed holidays. First Earth Day, then Arbor Day about a week later. Black History Month is chosen in February, which on the East Coast is the coldest month of the year generally, except down in the southern regions. So, if you live from New York up, Black History Month may seem like somewhat of an insult because of the poor weather. I don't think it was intended that way, but I'm just saying that to be a little bit with a little curmudgeonly wit, I guess what I would call it. Anyway, not to get too far off subject, when I think about Arbor Day, of course, I think of what arbor is. Trees. Now, there's pine trees all over. Maine is the pine tree state. And trees are the longest growing plants in the world. I mean, I'm sure there are some other biological curiosities, but trees can take decades to grow, sometimes a century, depending on the size and the width of the tree. And that never changes. Trees always grow the way they do. But something's happened to me today that helped me realize that humans are very different and animals are very different, especially us. One of the reasons that is because as long as I've been alive, plants and trees have grown at the same rate, but I've seen humans change in some very unusual and sometimes uncomfortable ways. Recently, couple of people, actually more than a couple of people I knew on Facebook, actually referred to me as being mentally challenged. They actually used that word. Now, I do have emotional disabilities, which I've mentioned in this vlog before, but I don't personally think of myself as the least bit mentally challenged, as in having Down syndrome or retardation or autism. That was mentioned clinically with me at one time, but never actually having any of those situations to deal with. Now, one reason, and listening to myself now I can see it, is because, when I grew up, I had a mother and a father who were always around. I had a lot of people involved with me, but human beings. I lived around a lot of human beings. A lot of people of my particular age group and younger, some of whom are in their early 20s now, and teenagers sometimes, they didn't always have that kind of family unit or an older brother and sister who were around constantly. So they were placed in front of a TV, sometimes with a video game, and then later on with computers. So these people were essentially raised by technology. They were still human, but they felt they had to keep up faster. They felt they had to act faster. They felt they had to think faster. And now I see people on their cell phones texting with their thumbs working even faster than this. It's really quite abnormal, texting to each other, talking faster than I am. And I should know, my own family think I talk fast. They really do. My own mother and father think I talk fast. They probably think I talk fast on this. So there's a generational component there in terms of speed of how people are. But, on the other hand, going back to where I was, listening to myself, I realized that I leave a lot of gaps in my conversation. I try to speak with relative clarity, and I try not to abbreviate my words too much when I speak. And to people who were raised more by machines, such as televisions, video games, or computers, or a combination of all of them, I probably am, by their standards, mentally slow. A friend of mine actually said that recently that they had an issue of their kids suspected of being ADD. Overused as it is, but the fact is, I'll go through the same syndrome. People are expected to move really fast nowadays. I watch a TV show produced within the last 10 years. It moves really fast for my comparison. I think the slowness is more generational, but I think a lot of people want to make it into a disability. Now, I'll say this about disabilities. As a person who genuinely has one, okay, just about anybody can be disabled if they actually think about it hard enough. I'm not saying that as a slur, but sometimes the line between a genuine disability and an assumed one is very, 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 very thin. As a matter of fact, a lot of people doubted me. I suppose somebody 2 generations separated might say, oh, he's just lazy, or whatever. But it's still there. And that's where the trees come in. Human beings are very complex creatures. We invent machines that actually go faster than we do, and then we try to keep up with our invention. And that's why I think people really perceive me as slow. They may not see it that way. They may disagree with this video, but it seems to be exactly the way it is. In terms of trees, I'm sure they have machines, and will have machines in the future, that can accelerate their growth. But they'll always generally grow the same way. And if those machines go offline, trees will keep growing, and they'll keep growing the way they always have. And that's why I think, in addition to the fact that they're vital to our survival, and all plant life is, because, obviously, they are able to live off the carbon monoxide that we give off, and so on and so forth. And there's that circle of life that we have, flora and fauna, as it were, and the ecology of the earth. So I think that, maybe we have a lot more to learn from our environment than we think, such as the idea of slowing down. Not too much, but just enough to make life, pretty much marvelous to live, would be a good way to look at it. So, enjoy the trees, plant a tree, it's Arbor Day, and notice its slow growth, and then notice your life, then watch this vlog and comment on it. Talk to you next time.